Greetings and welcome to the podcast, episode 4. I am your host, Richard de Ocio. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time to download the podcast. We got a great show today, and I think we're going to get right into it. Let's go. Do we have everything queued up? Are we ready? Okay, I think we're ready. Our next guest who's on the line right now is an established poker player, avid surfer, manager extraordinaire, brand ambassador, but you probably know him as the veteran voice of the Octagon. Ladies and gentlemen, that only means I'm talking about one man, and that's Bruce Buffer. Bruce, are you there?
Hi, I'm right here. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Really good, really good. Just back from Sweden, and as the saying goes, and boy, are my arms tired.
Well, which means I would imagine that if you are home in Southern California, you have maybe a few days rest before the big anticipated event this weekend.
Yeah, a few days left, but jam-packed with tons to do. We're just, even though I'm not appearing and announcing the UFC, I've got to run all my other stuff. And with all this travel that's been going on, sometimes when you only get home for a few days, then you're just swamped. But that's life. It's all great. It's all wonderful, and I love everything. So I'm very happy.
With that being said, one of the things that I mentioned in the introduction described you as a manager. Of course, you're behind the Buffer franchise, managing your brother. But with your busy schedule, like you mentioned, and of course your involvement with UFC, do you ever take time to reflect how you got involved? I think it was UFC 8 or 9.
Yeah, no, I mean, I reflect on that all the time because one thing about me is that I never live on my laurels. It's like I've been doing this now for almost 17 years, and there's been so much trials and tribulations, through the early part and getting to the place where we're at today in this whole evolutionary process of the UFC and balancing that with every other business venture and personal issues going on in my life and stuff, like everybody else that lives a life. So I reflect all the time because I realize how lucky I am. I realize how humbled I am by the whole experience, and I'm always very grateful. I just, I treat every day like it's a brand new day, and I basically perform every day to be my best, and if I'm not my best, then obviously I need work, and that's how I treat myself. That way it keeps me fresh, it keeps me on top of things, and I can always give my best performance when I walk in the octagon. As far as the trials or, the series of events that led up to my being the voice of the octagon and where I'm at today, Random House Publishing bought my memoirs and my biography.
Oh, congratulations.
And I'm finishing up that right now, which is stuff you cannot read on the internet. And it's going to be coming out and published in America, England, and Australia come April of 2013. So that will lay out everything for you and I'll answer all your questions.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, in the meantime, again, you're looking back and reflecting on this whole process here. The hard work leading up to get to this point wasn't handed to you by any means. You certainly had to knock down and knock on the doors of the UFC. You initially started as a fight manager, correct?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I'll give you a little lay down here, in a short circle.
Absolutely.
Basically, I've owned companies. My first company I owned when I was 19, my first corporation. And I was in college, and I stopped going to college because I figured I was studying during the day, during the night going to school, what I was doing during the day running my corporation. And basically, I decided to stop school for 2 years, see if I could make it, and I wound up never going back to college. And I've owned a number of different businesses. And then what happened is I found out 25 years ago, roughly, that I had a brother, and that brother happened to be Michael Buffer, the
Right.
famous boxing announcer at the time, who was my half-brother. I saw him come out on TV and saw his last name, and we had similar looks, but I don't think really that much because he's a pretty boy, and I've basically got scars, and hopefully some people consider me handsome. I don't know if that's true or not.
Depending on who you ask.
And then we searched each other out, and long story cut short, after a few years, I owned 2 companies, had a home on the beach, making incredible income for 1992, and I decided to give everything up. I was, doing very, very well, and I wanted to follow my dream and my passion, and that was to trademark that 5-word phrase properly, the "Let's Get Ready to Rumble" phrase,
Right.
to take his grand performance and put him in every form of sports and entertainment there is, making him the supreme, ultimate sports and entertainment announcer in the world. And I had a dream about announcing myself because I've been doing motivational speaking and I was used to being in front of people. I studied acting and improvisation when I was a kid because I wanted to be an actor. I gave that thought up when I was 18 because I'd rather make money than struggle. And then, with all respect to, pounding the pavement that actors do.
Sure.
And as a result, I'm in the UFC and I've done, a dozen or more movies and God knows how many TV shows, so I fulfilled that dream and that want. And my main thing was to help build this sport to where it got to. But before I did that, I actually put my brother in the UFC. When it got big, I put him in 6, 7, and Ultimate. I had a 3-fight deal with him. But it interfered with the contract we had with WCW Wrestling.
Okay.
And one of the big things was when he came out, he said, if it's not in the octagon, it's not real, which they had him say. But I don't know how old you are, Richard, but if you remember back in 93, shall we say, when the UFC came out, back then, entertainment wrestling was not entertainment wrestling.
Right.
McMahon and Bischoff and everybody wanted to make you think that it was real, even though they're glorified stunt shows. And I give these guys tremendous credit because they do so many shows a year, but they're not real fighters. They're tough, but they're not real fighters. And I'm into reality fighting. I've been in fighting my whole life. My grandfather was champion of the world in 1921 in boxing, in the flyweight, bantamweight divisions, and my dad was a Marine Golden Gloves fighter, and he was teaching me fighting techniques when I was literally 5 years old. And our big thing together as father and son was boxing. So it's been in my whole life. But then when I had to pull Michael from the UFC, which he couldn't have continued to do all the shows that went on because I had been doing so many other things. But the bottom line is that I asked to get into the octagon. I told the owner, Robert Meyerowitz, I said, you need a buffer in the octagon. I've got media contacts. I can do this announcing. I'll help you build the sport. I won't charge you for any of the extra work. I just want to see these fighters make $1 million a fight. I want to see this thing grow and be to the point where it could be the biggest thing in sports. I really believed this back in 1995 when I first got involved. And, of course, we all know what's happened since then, but I did not get the job because I was Michael Buffer's brother. I did not get the job back then. The way I got the job was I managed a fighter named Scott the Pitbull Ferrazzo.
Yeah.
And I managed him in the UFC 8. And I did it purposely because I had no interest in being a fight manager. I don't want to deal with the emotional ups and downs of personalities because my idea about business is making deals and having concrete. And I'll leave the emotional type management up to other people that want to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. Although I'm very supportive of fighters, I'm always there for them. But with that being said, they let me do the prelims when I was down in Puerto Rico because I told them I'm bringing down my tux. Let me do the prelims, show you what I got. I thought I did a good job. Certainly, if I listen to it now, I'd probably hold my hands over my ears. But they did not call me back for the next show, and then they called me in for UFC 10. Then they didn't call me back, and they asked me to co-star on that TV show called Friends.
Okay.
And I said, I'll do this, but I want to talk to you on the set. And on the set, I said, let's stop screwing around. This is like 2 years now. I've been trying to get this job. You know that I should be doing the job. You know I bring more to the table than just the announcing that I'll do the best job I can for you in. And it was the best poker hand I ever played. I just said, let's make a deal, or I'm not even going to ask you ever again, and I'll just leave.
Yeah. And
job.
And so I guess at that point the rest is history. But early on at that point that you just described, did you have the vision of developing the Buffer name into the franchise or the empire it is at right now?
I always did. I knew exactly where I was going. Everything that you ever hear that saying, like in the war movies, and the English general go, "Oh, it's all going according to schedule."
Right.
Well, it's all going according to schedule, Richard. This is exactly what I had planned. I can even look at my original notes. And things have come true. It's kind of like Jim Carrey writing a $20 million check in his wallet back when he was a starving comic at the Comedy Store. And then when he makes his $20 million payday for the second Ace Ventura movie, what does he do? He pulls out the check. He never took it out of his wallet. It's like, you have to believe and you have to envision where you want to go in life. And that's what will get you there. You really have to set a plan, write it down, and stick to it. And if you believe in it, then I would say your success ratio will be much higher than people that are just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, and you did that, and it revolved around the skills and the talents of you and your brother. Of course, the Buffer name. Now, fast forward into kind of you want to call it modern sports. Do you see anyone in the UFC right now, or in MMA in general, that's kind of following that same path in terms of building themselves into a brand? And could we see the next Michael Jordan of MMA emerging now?
Well, I said it a year and a half ago, and it's been quoted recently in articles on the internet. I said that Jon Jones will be the Muhammad Ali of MMA. Now, I'm not saying he'll be Muhammad Ali because there will never be another Muhammad Ali.
Sure.
But like you just said, use the term Michael Jordan of the NBA. They say, well, LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, could be the next, Michael Jordan. That's just the way they refer to things. But in the fight world, Muhammad Ali is the figurehead.
Absolutely.
At least from history of the last 50 years. So I will tell you right now that Jon Jones, what Muhammad Ali was to boxing, I firmly believe Jon Jones will be to MMA. may go down as the greatest fighter ever in the history of the sport. Now, granted, there's 13-year-olds now showing stuff in the gym that when they get 18 and 20 are possibly going to be a new breed and blow Jon Jones away.
Right.
But if you notice, here's an example. When Matt Hughes fought Hoyce in L.A. at Staples, the great Hoyce Gracie became old school. Matt became new school. When GSP fought Matt Hughes, Matt became old school.
Right.
GSP became new school. Right? Now you have Jon Jones doing things that we've never seen. He's 50% of the fighter he will be because he's so young and
Sure.
he has so much more training to do. But it's a phenom. And anybody can be beat on any given day, and Rashad Evans could definitely have a shot at beating Jon Jones. Do not count Rashad Evans out. I never pick fighters. It's always about may the best man win. But on paper, Jon Jones is one of those brands being built, rocket ships being built, and a perfect example is who did the UFC sponsor for the first time ever? They sponsored a fighter. Which fighter did they pick? Jon Jones.
Yeah, so that kind of describes the what the UFC has invested in him. But what you just described, seeing his potential firsthand, that's almost that second tier there. And again, developing himself into a brand. Again, I always go back to looking at what you did. You're a trendsetter in the sport, copywriting and the catchphrases, things like that. Is there anything that you see in Jon Jones that if you were his manager or just as a brand ambassador can give him suggestions or something that we can anticipate as fans outside of the cage with him?
Yeah, it's a good question, Richard. Jon and I are friends, and we spend time together. And when you read my book, you'll get more insight into that. But I became friends with Jon because I met him at the UFC. And I saw something in this young man that I've seen in a few other individuals, but not quite to this level. He's got what we call the it factor, okay? And I'm not just talking about his performance inside the octagon. If you were to ask me who my favorite all-time role model in the UFC is, I would tell you that it's Randy Couture. Okay. And if you said why, I'd say very simply, it's not what he did in the octagon only.
Right.
It's how he handles himself outside the octagon, how he handles himself in interviews, how he dresses, how he carries himself, the class factor. All-encompassing thing, because when I think about molding fighters, if I was managing fighters, and I've had some serious sit-downs with some fighters to give them my viewpoints, because they become friends of mine, and I feel that since I'm involved so much, I have a right to help them because I have a track record of knowing what I'm talking about. And it's about the overall picture. Jon Jones walks into a room and smiles with his resting heart rate of 75, or whatever the heck he walks around with, including when he's fighting in the octagon, and his ability to speak and his articulation, his background, his family background, the image he exudes. The only thing that will get in the way of Jon Jones' career and creating that strong brand that we're discussing is none other than Jon Jones. Right. He'll either be his worst enemy, God forbid, or he'll be his best supporter and growth factor, which he's proving day in and day out. He's got it all. He's got the it factor, and I've not seen a slip up yet. And I tell him all the time. I told him to his face, the only thing that'll screw you up is you. So just keep it straight. He's a young man. He's going to be dealing with a lot of temptation. Not the obvious things of temptation
sure.
that fighters deal with, but all different kinds of things. Tons of money. I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Jones is worth $30-40 million in 6 years.
Wow. As a brand beyond his performance in the octagon, just the overall Jon Jones brand, building that into 30+ million.
I can see it because see the benefit that Jon has now. Now we're just talking about Jon, but there's other fighters that have this ability too. Don't get me wrong. But while we're on the subject of Jon, just trying to analyze the question you made, is that when Frank Shamrock was the best guy in MMA, he had the it factor, all that stuff. The problem was that we were on DirecTV being seen by 16 million homes. Jon Jones now is coming into a deal with Fox, which is seen all over the world on the biggest network in the United States, and they're paying, six figures of millions of dollars at the UFC, so obviously they're going to put a ton of marketing power behind this. Jon Jones is now going to benefit from that. And the timing could not be more perfect. And I actually kind of bothers me when I think about, the great fighter that Frank, is but was back then. I mean, he was, supreme with him and Tito coming up the way they did.
Right.
And how they would have benefited if the MMA world, the evolutionary process was as it was then as it is now. They would have made so much money and obviously been able to build outside careers for themselves. As they can do today, much more so than they could do back then. See the difference in the timing factor?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about timing. Real estate, they talk about location, marketing, things like that. It's all about timing. And I think for fight fans to get into the sport, right now is a good time. For young athletes, I think right now is a good time having role models like Jon Jones. Bruce, I don't want to take much more of your time, knowing that you're a busy man. So I appreciate everything that you've done for the sport, and of course, certainly taking the time out of your schedule today to come on and chat with us. Thanks for the insight about the book. We're already anticipating that release date here in a few years. Is there anything else that you want to mention? You want to give us an insight to what the introduction is going to look like for those fighters here at
I would love to give you an insight, but you're probably going to, I've said this before in interviews, and it'll probably surprise you, but aside from doing my cards and knowing that what I have to say as far as the stats are concerned,
Sure.
I never rehearse. See, what I'll do is I'll walk into Atlanta, in the arena. I will feel the energy off the crowd, and I will feed off that energy. And that's what gets me going. Now, barring a 360 at UFC 100, which, I was getting tons of email, and there was all that fire and fury on the internet, thanks to my buddy Joe Rogan and the viral videos he did. Still, I didn't know I was going to do it till I did it at that moment. So I never rehearse, but you know that I'll always bring it. I'll bring you 150% when I'm in there.
And that's what we're looking forward to, and we can't wait for this weekend, of course, for the fight card, and we can't wait for your fighter introduction. Bruce Buffer, thanks again for taking the time out to chat with us, and we'll stay in touch and enjoy the rest of your day.
I appreciate it. For those of you that want to see any more information, just go to bufferzone.net. We're offering, recordings for private events, weddings, birthdays. I do a ton of these. I think I'm very inexpensive and affordable. You can write questions. I answer all emails. Might take me a few weeks because I'm on the road. And get ready for the Buffer Zone app coming out, which will be not just an alarm clock and answer tones for your phones, but it's going to be so much more. It's going to be very, very cool. And the biggest thing I want to announce is that I'm starting It's Time Industries, that's going to be a very big clothing venture. Not just MMA, it's in all sports, but we're not going to sell for about a year. I'm just going to have the clothes being worn by celebrities starting this weekend in Atlanta.
Oh, interesting.
And they will not be available for sale, but if you tune into my website or you tune into my podcast, It's Time Radio on the Sure Dog Network, we'll be making teammates of It's Time Industries over the next year before we even sell one item.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And with that being said, we're definitely going to follow. Busy man. I'm tired just listening to all that you've got involved with, but you're certainly at this point because of the hard work, and it's paid off, and we're going to see that this Saturday with your announcing of the fighters in the cage. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you for all you do for the sport. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. It's not always about the paycheck. It's about how much we believe in this incredible sport that we're all involved in, and this incredible event called the UFC. So thanks for all your support.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
You take care, Richard.
You too.
Bye-bye.
That was veteran voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer, talking everything from old school MMA, even threw in some WCW references. Anytime you can schedule time with Bruce, because he's a busy man, just to chat about stuff like that, it's got to be a great day. So I want to thank him for taking the time to come in here and chat with us. And we look forward to seeing his fighter introduction at UFC 145, where Bones Jones takes on former teammate, former friend. I don't know what's going on in that drama, but we're going to find out who the winner of that long-anticipated fight is going to be this Saturday, UFC 145. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, email me, richarddeocio@me.com. I want to thank you again for taking the time to download the podcast. Please help spread the word. Until next time, good night. Good night.
Bet 'em up, fam, get 'em up, damn, y'all don't know who I am. Stay true to what I do, and I ain't new to none of this, I'm only new to you. Moving through with art being incredible, a Afro flow, you better act like you know, bruh. My percussionists be crushing it, the son de soon the yada, so why they honor your father. A lot of us rushing the game, but never think if it's a game, someone must get played, so I guard my cards, watch nervous cats fold them like Texas hold them now. And keep an ace in the hole. Independent artists know hard is what makes them whole. So we don't follow charts or trends. We only got them on the water, throw darts at them. Now bring it in. Bet 'em up, get 'em up. That's how we give it to them all day. Bet 'em up, get 'em up. That's how we give it to them all day. Bet 'em up, get 'em up. That's how we give it to them all day. Bet 'em up, get 'em up. Party.